Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar about our MSc Education program. Thank you for joining us. My name is Andri Christodoulou, and I'm the program director for the master's program in Southampton Education School. So I'm gonna now talk for a few more minutes on how to succeed in your master's studies. Remember, if you have any questions about the structure of the program and the delivery of the program, make sure you write them in the chat, and I will make sure we have time at the end to answer your questions. So, how to succeed in your master's studies? Studying for a master's degree is more challenging than studying for an undergraduate degree, and especially if you have to study on a course that is full-time. That means that you have to come prepared for the kind of activities and the kind of teaching and learning that would be taking place. And some of the ways that you can start preparing is by focusing on key skills that master students need to succeed in their studies. So I'm focusing here on these 4 key skills: questioning, critical thinking, reflection, and also being an independent learner, and all are critical for your success as a master student. So when we look at questioning, what we mean is that you need to be able to question and analyze the information that you are reading. For each of our sessions, you will be given some readings to do ahead of the session to prepare. And then we will discuss those readings and present different content. And we want you to come prepared to ask questions about that content. It's very important. So questioning is really important for all the other skills as well that you will need to be developing. And then questioning also means asking questions in conversation, both with your tutors and your peers. So we set up our teaching and learning activities in a way that include a lot of discussion, a lot of conversation of key issues and debates in education. And we want you to be actively participating in those debates and discussions. And to do that, you need to be prepared and have the confidence to raise questions, to think about how issues discussed apply in your own context, and have conversation about those issues with tutors and your peers. And if we're looking at critical thinking will develop through your questioning. So it's something that comes with time. But these are some of the important actions that you can take in order to start developing your critical thinking, and in order to be able to start presenting that both in conversations you have in teaching and learning activities, but also in the written assessments that you will have to submit in your dissertation project. So you need to be able to identify what other people think and summarize that in a clear way. You also need to be able to present your own thinking in a clear, reasoned way that is also convincing. So it's not enough to be able to say, this is what I have read. You also need to be able to say, this is what I think about the readings I have done and about the ideas that have been presented to me in my sessions. You need to be able to evaluate that information as well. So to think whether you agree, to think whether you disagree with what has been presented, and consider different points of view. You have to be able to draw conclusions based on good evidence and sensible assumptions. So are your conclusions logically following by the information that has been previously presented? And finally, you need to be able to reflect on issues presented in a logical and structured way. And reflection is a really important part of succeeding in your master studies in education especially. And what do we mean by reflection? To be able to reflect critically on information means essentially to consider that information and new knowledge in relation to yourself, so your own understanding, your own context. If you're a secondary school teacher, how is this new knowledge relevant to me as a secondary school teacher? If you're a higher education administrator, how is that relevant to my workplace? So you have to look at it in relation to your own understanding, but also your own experiences as a learner, as a teacher, or as a leader, depending on your background and the pathways that you are studying. And then finally, being independent is something that you will need to develop as you progress through your studies with us, but it's also something that you have been developing as you have been completing your undergraduate studies, as you have been in your workplace for a number of years. So what we mean by independent learners is students that take ownership of their own learning. They take responsibility for what they need to do, what they need to complete, and also how well they can do in their studies. So it's important as part of that process to identify what are your strengths and your weaknesses as a student, and identify ways that you can make the most of your strengths and also overcome the weaknesses. You need to, as I mentioned earlier, you need to have the confidence to ask questions, to take initiatives. You need to be able to use the feedback that is given to you to understand how you can further develop your work, how you can be even better. You need to think about how you can best manage your time, the resources that are given to you, how you can organize time and resources to make the most of that and prepare. And finally, you need to be able to acknowledge and understand when it's time to ask for help. A lot of our students think that being independent means doing everything alone. And that is not what we want to be doing with our students and how we want to be working with our students. We offer a wide range of support for our students, both academic, but also as part of the student experience and pastoral support. But we need you to ask for that support. So it's there for you to use, but you need to know when to use it. So questioning, critical thinking, being independent, and being reflective. Those are skills that you need to have to do well. Those are skills that you will be developing as you progress through your MSc education. But there are also things that you can start doing right now to get ahead of the game and prepare for January. And these are two of the things that you could be doing. It's really important to get familiar with education topics within the UK and internationally. And of course, you will have experience of the educational context of your own country, but it's important to think about what is happening in education elsewhere. And that will help you start identifying current issues and debates in education that are of interest to you. So what do you want to know more about education? What aspect of teaching and learning, or what area of education? Is it policy? Is it research? What level of education are you interested in? Identifying those interests is really important, because it means that as soon as you start your studies with us, you can start thinking about what you're learning in relation to your interests, and that can then develop into a dissertation project that you can complete during your by the end of your studies. You will have received this Getting Ready to Study MSc Education email. It was sent to you earlier, a few months ago in May. And in this email communication, we include a range of information on how to prepare for your studies before you come to Southampton. There's a few readings that you could be looking at, and there's also a few links that are publicly available online that you can access, so you can start thinking and engaging with educational research. Another way to access information about education and educational research is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Southampton Education School has a channel on YouTube that includes a lot of short informative videos by members of staff, by colleagues here, on education in general, on research methods, on policy, on theory. And these are publicly available. So if you have access to YouTube, we can add this link in the chat, so you can easily access this website. You can subscribe and you can have a look at the information that is offered there. You can also start reading education-related news stories, and I would strongly encourage you to do that in English. So if you can access, these are just a couple of news websites, newspapers that offer information online, that have an education section, and you can see there some of the most recent issues and debates in education that have come up in the news. This is really good because it's informative, both in terms of the education content, but also in terms of practicing your English and using education-related terminology in English. And finally, this is if you want to look at books that include information on both studying at postgraduate level and specific on education, then this is such a reading. You can have a look at this as a preliminary reading to help you understand current issues and debates in education and help you prepare for master's studies.